Salute, salute, salute. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the King Ray Ray Show. I appreciate y'all being in the building, man. Let's get the people a few minutes to get up in here, man. We only up 2 minutes, man. Let's get the people a few more minutes to get in here before we get started on the show. I appreciate everybody being in the joint, man. If you're in already, salute to you. C Deli, Tez, I see you, man. Let's get the people a few minutes to get in the joint. I don't know what happened with the notifications this time. If people got them, if they didn't, I don't know. Spoon, what up, brother? Good to see you in the building, man. Salute to you, man. If the audio is sounding phenomenal, man, y'all go ahead, stick a one in the chat for me if that audio is sounding phenomenal. Appreciate y'all being in the building. I gotta move this order. Wow. Too much coming up out of that, man. Too much coming up out of that, man. Real talk. Mello, what's good with you, man? King Will, Darren Morgan, I see y'all, man. I see you. Let's give the people another minute and a half or so to get up in the building, man. Y'all put the one in. I see the ones coming in. I see the ones coming in. Salute, salute. All right, Mello. Appreciate you stopping in, man. Checking in, though, bruh. Appreciate it. Top 10 spiritual lessons I've learned in life so far to gain and maintain peace of mind. Top 10 spiritual lessons I've learned in life so far to gain and maintain peace of mind. Mike Bills, what up with you, brother? What's good with you? Eric Almighty, I see you, brother. I see you. Let's give the people another 45 seconds, man, and we're going to go ahead and do our thing, man. I appreciate y'all being in the joint. Appreciate y'all patience as well. One more load coming in, man. So on Sunday show, we'll have everything set up, man. We'll be back on camera on Sunday show, man. Maybe I kind of like this format, man. I kind of like this format. So I was having a conversation with someone, and they asked me, "What is it that you've learned over the years that helps you stay in spiritual balance?" Because we're all from a background that's not necessarily the most spiritual background. We're all from around people who aren't necessarily the most spiritually astute people. So, what is it that keeps me from dipping back into that background, doing some of those same things, even though, I see other people doing it, man. I see people doing it. So, but there are some blessings from being from the background that I'm from that helped me out tremendously. The Money Boys, salute, salute, man, salute. Man, we trying to get it in, bro, trying to get it in, trying to show the kingdom some love, man, and put in the work, man. So, you know, there's a growing up in poverty is a traumatic experience. Now you don't know it because everyone around you is in poverty. It's not like you live in a neighborhood of mansions and your family is in poverty. If you're in poverty, you're not living in a neighborhood of mansions, right? You're lucky to be working in a neighborhood of mansions if you're living in poverty. So everyone around you is in poverty, and a lot of times people trauma bond over their impoverished conditions growing up. All trauma bonding isn't about an emotional bond or going through something, in some relationship or, something happened to you as a kid outside of just being in that environment. There's a such thing as financial trauma bonding. And it comes from all of the trauma that comes from living in poverty, not ever having the things you need and want. You think about the trauma that happens with a child who goes to bed hungry. Multiple nights. You think about the trauma of a child who's left to his own devices because his mother has to work double shifts. That is how so many victimizing circumstances happen in those environments, because young people are left to fend for themselves. So there's a trauma that comes with that. But I'll tell you what that did for me. The lesson I learned from that, yes, I'm not going to lie. When I first started making money, I was making street money anyway, but I was balling. You understand? We was all balling, draped up, dripped out. So that's why now, if you see me out somewhere, man, I don't wear a lot of jewelry. I may have on a watch, but my watch, it don't have no diamonds and nothing in it. I already did that. I did that when I was 19, 20. I already did that. I already went to the lot and copped the brand new whip off the lot and rode through the city, shining on everybody, the only one in the city with the whip. I tried to tell them it was a rental, but after about 3 months, they were like, bruh, come on, man. But so I've done all of that. So what that taught me, the number one lesson I've learned is a financial lesson. Well, these are not in any particular order of importance. But the number one lesson I learned financially is that being broke is the worst position you can be in financially. So I never want to do anything to risk putting myself back in that position again. Especially now that I do things that God put me here to do in order to make revenue. I never want to be in that position again where I can't get everything I want. And so even when I could get everything I want at that point in my life, those younger years, I realized after getting those things that I never really wanted them. I just wanted to be able to buy them. So I drew a line between wanting to be able to buy something and actually buying that thing. And that brought me through a lot. That taught me a lot, because now I'll see something and I'll be like, man, that thing really is nice. But I know me, and I know I don't really want it. I could get it. But getting something I don't want that's overly priced, all these things are exorbitantly priced. That's the quickest way to put myself back in poverty. You know what I mean? The quickest way to put yourself back in poverty is to spend everything you got. So you think of the concept of living check to check. When you live in check to check, that means that you live a better life, but you're still living in poverty, because before you get to the next time you get money, you don't have any money. You can't do the things you want to do. You have somewhere you like to live, you have something you like to drive, but you can't do the things you want to do because all of your money is going out on things that you have that are overpriced. So one of the traumas that comes with poverty is when you get some money, you feel like you just gotta buy everything you thought you ever wanted. That's why someone in a certain environment can get $10,000 back on their income tax returns in April, and then in May be hit calling people to borrow money for their bills. GC, salute, brother. I saw young Markel in here as well. Young Markel, good to see you in the joint. Oh, y'all give me a minute, man. Let me put this SD card in my machine here, man. I be recording these as podcast episodes, man. So that's one lesson that I learned. You understand, when you make money, man, you buy what you need to buy, man, and then you save, and you try to you try to save and invest as much as you possibly can, because spending money, when you spend money on material things, you never get what you pay for. You always get less than you pay for. Why? Because they always have to make a profit. You can't look at something and say, well, I can buy this over here for $500, but over there it's $550. So I'm getting a deal over here. You're not really getting a deal when you pay $500 for something that costs $200 to make or $100 to make. Like you're not really getting a deal when you get, when you get a pair of Jordans, buy one, get one half off, or buy one, get one 20% off, when the one that's 20% off still costs $180 and you the shoe costs, $1.50 to make. You're still not getting a deal. So what I've learned is to get things from the source. That's why I don't go to church for my connection with the Most High. I go to the source. I go to my spirit man. That's the source. So another valuable lesson I learned over the years is that God is my only protection from society and myself. There's no other protection from society and myself. You can have all the weapons in the world, but guess what? If there are more men and more weapons than is you against them, there's a chance that you're not going to make it out of there. So it's not about you thinking that you're such a big man, a big, strong man that you can protect yourself. It is about understanding that protection from society and self only comes through building a relationship with God. There is no other way. I've done it other ways. I've done that. And the thing is, when you do it, you have to think about how often that turns into a bad situation. See, I don't want bad situations in my life. And I realize that I create bad situations in my life. Whenever there's a bad situation in your life, you created it. Whenever there's a situation in your life that doesn't measure up to what it's supposed to be, you created it. Nobody just comes into your life and throws a situation in your lap. It doesn't happen that way. And so, in order for me to make the proper decisions and necessary decisions and moves that I need to make in order to protect myself from society and myself, I got to be aligned with the Most High. And you need protection from society and self. And from society, I don't mean you riding around, thinking somebody gonna pull you out your car, carjack you or something. Like, no, I don't mean that. That happens all the time. But I'm not saying you riding around worrying about that. I'm saying from the expectations of society, from the way society pulls you in different directions, and you're feeling like maybe you got to do this, or the desire to fit in, or the desire to get approval, a desire to get whatever you need likes or followers or whatever it is, the desire to get what that thing is that you need or that you think you need, when all you really need is to build your relationship with the Most High. And so when people talk about, man, I ain't worrying about no God, I ain't worrying about no religion, no spirituality, no church, whatever they say, basically what they're saying is they don't want to have to govern themselves. Protection from society and self is strictly about governing yourself. And what I learned is you have to govern yourself. No one has to excuse your inability to govern yourself. No one has to give you a pass when you disrespect them. No one has to give you a pass when you do something wrong. No one has to give you a pass when you break the law and commit a crime. No one has to give you a pass when you take something that doesn't belong to you. No one has to give you a pass, because you should be able to govern yourself. Self-governance is the greatest tool that a man can use in order to build the life that he wants. Because if you can't govern you can't trust yourself to take advantage of opportunities whenever they come. You can't trust yourself to avoid pitfalls, even when you see them. You can't trust yourself if you can't govern yourself. That means that when you see the right thing to do, that means you don't know if you're gonna do it or not. And we can't live our lives that way. Young Markel, appreciate you, brother. I missed a couple of King Ray Ray live show, but I watch ones I miss in the morning to get ready for my day. Salute to the Kingdom of Ray. Salute to you, young brother. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. We all get busy sometime, man, and have to, we had to focus on things in life. Nick Whitaker, appreciate the 2 bones. All fast connection with the Most High is key. Absolutely key. You know something else I learned? You don't learn lessons from your failures. Only thing you learn from your failures is that you weren't good enough, you weren't smart enough, you weren't focused enough, you weren't determined enough. You don't learn lessons from that. Like if you fail at something, you don't learn how to do it better after you fail, because you didn't have to fail the first time. You just got to go harder. You got to be more focused. You got to be smarter. You got to, you got to be more resilient. You got to be more patient. You got to do all of those things. But the majority of lessons I learned in life, man, I didn't learn a bunch of things from failures. I didn't learn a bunch of things from mistakes. I learned right from wrong as a kid. So when you're not a kid anymore, most of the things you do, they're decisions that you make. Like you willingly make certain decisions. It's not like these decisions are made by someone else and thrust upon you. For the most part, you make decisions. You didn't learn from mistakes. Like what failures have you learned from? Because there is no failure until you give up. So you can't learn from giving up. There's no such thing as learn from your failures. That's the biggest oxymoron I ever heard is learn from your failures. No failure. There is no failure until you give up. And once you give up, what do you learn? You just learn you're a quitter. You learn that, that wasn't the thing for you. That wasn't like, what do you learn? What do you learn that's going to help you move forward? You can't be taught life lessons by failures. Failures and experiences are two different things. The wisest man on earth is a man who learns his lessons by watching other people's decisions and the results of those decisions. That's really the only thing that matters. Decisions and results of those decisions. Decisions and consequences and repercussions. Those are the only things that we should be focused on. There's nothing else to focus on, to be honest with you, man. You don't learn life lessons from failure. You just learn life lessons from observing, man. When you observe how the man who goes to work every day and pays all of his bills and does everything, he's the sweetest guy around, and you see the type of behavior that he gets from his wife when he's there and when he's not there, especially when he's not around, then you understand that that's not something I learned from a failure. That's not something I learned from a mistake. That's something I learned from observation. I've never made the mistake. I've never failed to not go somewhere I wasn't supposed to go. And it's crazy to think about that. Brother, I don't even look at life. I learned not to look at life from a perspective of successes and failures. I learned to look at life from a perspective of progress and regress. Either there's progression or there's regression. And those are the only two things. Every day, you either progress or you regress. Progress isn't a success because if it is, it's a very short-lived success because you got to progress again the next day. So life is about progress and regression. It's not about anything else. Are you moving forward or are you moving backwards? And if you're standing still, not moving in any direction, it's just like moving backwards. And that's one of the greatest lessons that I could tell anyone. That's the greatest lessons I could tell anyone. There's nothing more. Famo, salute to you, man. And so I say this to y'all, man, you have to understand that the earlier you learn these lessons of life, the better off your life is going to be. And you cannot deny the truth of these lessons. You cannot deny truth. It's another great lesson I learned, man. That's really, if I had to rank them, I would probably put that at number one. You cannot deny truth. You cannot deny truth. Because if you deny truth, then anyone's lie could become your truth. You have to accept truth as early as you possibly can. Therefore, once you accept truth, no one can tell you anything. No one can tell me anything about my stance with the Most High, about where I stand with the Most High, about how I live with the Most High, about how I talk to the Most High, about how I reside under the protective umbrella of the Most High. No one can tell me about the statutes and commandments and the laws. No one can tell me that I should be reading some other book. No one can tell me to go read this or read that or read that. I'm where I want to be with God spiritually. I don't care about read nothing else. I don't care about nothing else. I don't care about what you're doing. You can do whatever you want to do over there. Read 1,000 books if you want to. I don't care about that because I'm satisfied and happy and joyful with my relationship with the Most High. With my understanding of my relationship with the Most High, it is perfect to me because I accepted truth a long time ago. You can't come tell me some other truth. You can't come tell me I don't know and then tell me your truth. Okay, I just say this. You live with your truth. You know, here's the problem with people, and this is what you can't do. You can't allow people to force their truth on you. You notice I never say, hey man, you better do this or you better do that. I always say, hey man, if that's your choice, just understand what you're doing, no matter what it is. If you're going to quit your job and do something else, you know, take a chance on your business, just understand what you're doing. Understand that that means your insurance got to be paid for out of your pocket. Understand that that means you got to keep up with your own taxes. You got to understand the tax laws. Understand that's what you have to do. And the reality is people will come around you and try to turn your truth into a lie so they can force their truth upon you and have you actively, for real, living a lie. So you must accept and embrace truth early on. There is no need to not embrace truth. It doesn't benefit you at all to not embrace truth. One of the greatest lessons I learned that allowed me to grow and move forward with life and counseling helped this was your parents are who they are. And as a parent, you realize that your best will never be good enough for your child. And as a child, you must grow. As you grow into maturity, you must understand that from your perspective, your parents would never do enough. Everything you ever complain about your parents not doing, even if they had done those things, you would still have things to complain about because you think parenting should be perfect. Even though you know you're not perfect, you think they should be perfect. You think that everything you didn't know is based on them. You think that when all the bad decisions you made are based on your parents not telling you right or wrong. But here's the deal. When you're young, 9 times out of 10, when you made a bad decision, you knew it was a bad decision. You had been told it was a bad decision. You had been shown it was a bad decision, and you made it anyway. You made it anyway. And see, when you make a bad decision, your parents aren't required to bail you out of that. They can bail you out of that if they want to, but they're not required to. If you make a bad decision as a teenager, you do something, you end up in jail. It's not your parents' responsibility to bail you out, especially if you've done something that goes against what they taught you. If you're a young girl and you have a child young, it's not your parents' responsibility to bail you out because you can't tell me ain't nobody told you, babe, don't have no kid young. Somebody done said it. If you're a woman and if you're a man and you had a child as a youngster, way too young to be able to care for one, hey man, listen, no, you can't blame nobody else. Somebody done told you to man, strap up, wrap it up, man. You don't want no little yan, man. You don't want no yan. You don't want that one of those. So when we look out in life, we have to understand that our parents were not our only source of information. And so just because they didn't tell you something, you knew it anyway. You can't say, well, you never told me that. You never. Okay, well, okay, say I didn't tell you that, but did you know it? Because it ain't, sometimes God just give you some wisdom. Don't try to act like because God gave it to you, but your parent didn't, that your parents did something wrong. No, they got out of the way. They did their part and let God do his. So the greatest lessons I learned, man, is that, and I learned this young. Like my parents weren't my only source of my only source of information. I got information from a bunch of sources, and that's not even a problem for most people now because you can just type anything into Google or Bing or whatever you use, Maybe even Yahoo. I ain't used Yahoo in so long, I don't even know if it's still available. I'm sure it is though. And like Famo said, the hard head told the soft behind. So I had to grow up and realize that everything that was in my life was based on a decision that I made. And if I didn't know what that decision was, I need to keep tracing back further and further and further until I get to that decision that I made to create this circumstance in my life. And that's just how life goes. That's why I say, man, your only protection from society and self is to connect with the Most High and have a strong bond with God, have a strong relationship with God by proving to Him that you can resist temptation. Another thing I learned, man, is most people use hateration instead of motivation when they see people. You know, as you mature, you see more people who are in the position you want to be in. You know, you just see more people. When you're a kid and you're running around, man, you ain't even thinking about that. Even when you get a little bit older, man, you're not thinking about your life on down the line. But when you get to a certain point, you start thinking about your life on down the line. It's all fun and games till you get about 25 and you realize that I may not be where I want to be when I'm 30. It's all fun and game till you get 30 and you realize I may not be where I want to be when I'm 35. It's all fun and game to where until you get to 40 years old and the most money you ever made in a year was $30,000 before taxes, and you realize that for 40 years you've been for the past 20 years since you were 20 you've been struggling. It's no fun and games then, but you have to use people as motivation. If you can't be listen, man, if you can't be motivated by actually seeing someone who's in the position you want to be in, then what will motivate you? What can you possibly be motivated by if you can't be motivated by seeing someone who's in the position you want to be in? It's one thing to dream about the position. It's one thing to hope and wish and maybe and pray that you can get there. But when you see somebody in that position, that eliminates any doubt to you that it's possible. There's a possibility right there. There's someone right in the flesh. If you can't use that for motivation, you'll never succeed. You have to use people as motivation. You have to use environments. You have to use positive and negative for motivation. If you're surrounded by negativity, that should motivate you to put yourself in a position where you can be surrounded around positivity. If you're surrounded by positivity, it goes unsaid. Positivity is the greatest motivator. People come around with positive energy. It's the greatest motivating force that you could ever have in your life, man. It really is. And it doesn't, and now with the internet, it doesn't have to be people that are close to you, people that are local. It could be anyone from around the world bringing positive energy to you, man. That would be I'm listen, man, the world's greatest motivator is positive energy no matter where it comes from. And I mean that when I say it. Ice Cold, what up, man? What up? Good to see you in the joint, bro. And so you have to be willing, you have to be looking toward your future at all times. You have to be looking toward your future. Right now, at this point, I'm still looking toward my future. You have to always look toward your future. There's only two ways you can look. You either got to be looking towards your future, looking towards your past. Stop looking towards your past as quickly as you can. Break away from looking toward your past. You should have blinders on by a certain point in life when it comes to your past, because you have pulled all the positive energy out of it and all the negative energy, you have left it behind you. Any lesson you could glean out of your past, it should be moving forward. It should be in your it should be in your collection of lessons. There's a collection of lessons that we have in our lives, things that we learn. Sometimes we learn from other people's experience, and sometimes we learn the hard way. But there's a box of lessons, and it's split into those two compartments. Things I learned the hard way, things I learned from watching other people's decisions and the consequences of their decisions. And then you leave the past behind you. You eliminate people who keep you tied to the past. That's one of the greatest things. That's another lesson I learned. Man, I eliminate people who keep me tied to the past. On the rare occasion I'm in my city, ain't really nothing there for me, unless I'm visiting family. But otherwise, I don't really do a lot of business there. I just don't. That's not where my business connections come from. I have a couple, but not nothing really. The majority of my business connections aren't there. So, but when I'm there, man, I come across somebody, man, they got one time, man, to say something to me about something that we did in the past, something that happened in the past, or anything like that. Anything like that. I be man, listen, I be falling through, man, and every now and then I come across somebody, man, that might have been the ops way back in the day, dog. I'm talking about 20 years ago, they was the ops. You know what I'm saying? 25 years ago, they were the ops. We were like young. They were the ops 25 years ago, and I see them somewhere, and if they recognize me, they still look with a mean mug. I ain't gonna do nothing, but just look with a mean mug. I'd be like, bro, you mean tell me, man, because I know this. I know they be faking. They just into the habit of mean mugging. I hope they faking. I hope they faking, just be in the habit of, bro, if you can still be upset about anything from that long ago, you haven't had enough positivity in your life, man. You just haven't. You haven't had enough positivity in your life. And if you faking, then you're just not mature. You're not mature enough if you can still fake that. And so I don't worry about the past, man. You know, I see somebody, man, I ain't gonna be no, hey man, what's going on, brother? I ain't gonna do that right there. You know, if I see out there, man, you used to be the ops, man, bro. I can't even remember what you were the ops for. I just know we ain't never get along. I can't even remember half of the time, bro. I don't know, I just know, man, that dude ain't ever like each other. And I'd be like, but why? I'd be like, man, I don't even know. I have no idea. But listen, I don't have any bitterness or anger toward anybody from the past. So let's say like even man, like sometime man, I'll be in the city or I'll be somewhere and I'm just all over the place. I do a lot of traveling, man. And so I'll be somewhere, man, and like even a woman from the past, man. I see a woman from the past, man, or she'll say something to me, man, or DM me or something like that, man. Bro, I don't have no animosity. But for me, I've just had so many better experience in every facet of life than I had in the past that anything in my past will be going backwards. Like I don't have any experiences in the past that I haven't topped. You know what I mean? Like, if you're still tied to your past, you're letting people keep you held to the worst of your life. Your past should be the worst of your life. Your life should gradually get better. You should gradually improve. You should gradually progress. You should gradually get closer and closer to where you want to be in life. And if you don't, then you got to ask yourself, why? Why are you allowing yourself to be stuck on the worst part of your life? Man, listen, bro, when you're in your 20s, that's the worst part of your adult life. The absolute worst part. You're the brokest. You're the dumbest. You're the least popular. You're the everything that leads to success. You have the least of it. Bro, you ain't got none of it when you 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. At all. That's why there's a saying, man, youth is wasted on the young. Because you waste more time than you build when you're that young. And so what I do, man, bro, there's no need for me to, man, like people being, man, listen, man, I come across there's a few people that can get in touch with me, man. They invite me to things, man. I'd be like, man, huh? I'm like, nah, bro. I mean, I'm busy, bro. Man, bro, I'm not finna. Come on, man. Well, I just want to show up and show out. I just want to show up and show the people, man, that hey, man, that boy doing good, man. Man, that boy looking good, living good, feeling good, man. Boy riding clean, man. That boy dressed to the T. Now, man, I don't care nothing about that. I got real projects going on. I got real business going on in life, bro. I'm not trying to go back in the past, and that's what I want y'all to understand. Leave the past in the past. People be talking about, man, your past make you who you are. No, what you learned from your past. You ain't got to keep tied to the past. Let me tell you the crazy thing somebody told me. Man, I can go back to my hood whenever I want to. Yeah, but you can't even go back to your hood. I knew at that point, me and that guy weren't on the same level at all. We ain't on the same level at all. Why would I want to? I can, but why would I want to? Bro, let me tell you something, and this real talk. If you 30, 40 years old and you can still go back to your hood, then you're a loser and everybody you grew up with was a loser. Because that means there's enough people still stuck in that same environment where you can go back and have a good old time with your people from back in the day. Now, notice, we didn't say your old neighborhood. We say your old hood. We know what the hood mean. They take the neighbor off because in the hood, ain't nobody neighbors. We just live here together. You leave your stuff outside, we gonna steal it. Pull up in here and something fly if you want to. We gonna break in your car and steal your radio or something. It's a hood, but ain't no neighbors. These are people that live by each other. So I want y'all to understand that people who are stuck in the past, they're beneath you. You can't align yourself with people who stuck in the past. They're going to pull you back to the past. Let me tell you something, man. If you hang around people who aren't on your level, then you're going to feel comfortable going down to their level if you want to keep them around. Because you can't uplift them to your level. You can't. Let me tell y'all something. They be telling my man, you got to lift people up. You got to bring, man, you can't lift people up to your level. You can help them have the tools they need on their level to move up to their next level, but you can't you can't level up. If you're on level 5, you're dealing with somebody on level 2, how you think you're gonna lift them up the level? Why in the hell would you lift them up to level 5? Why would you lift them up to level 5 when you had to grind up to level 5? No, you want to get to level 5, you put in your work. You put in your work. That's how you get to level 5. You put in your work like I put in my work. Like everybody on level 5 put in their work. Another phenomenal lesson I learned is that in the real world, excuses don't change lack of results. Like if something needs to happen, it needs to happen regardless of what your excuse is. If there's a deadline to meet, it needs to be met regardless of what your excuses are. If there's a responsibility you have, that responsibility had to be taken care of. And if it's not taken care of, nobody cares what your excuses are. The responsibility isn't taken care of. So even when you look out into like the relationship aspect of life, the marriage and all of that, a husband and wife have a responsibility for each other. And if you don't take care of your responsibility for your husband or your wife, their responsibility still must be taken care of. Somebody's got to do it. If you got a business, then there's certain things you got to do to keep that business going. And if you don't do those things, the business is not going to stay afloat. It's not going to keep going. It's going to close. You're going to have to shutter the doors on that thing, man. Nobody cares about the excuse of why you didn't. That's a good story. But now that this didn't happen, there's a domino effect from this not happening. There are other things that can't happen because this didn't happen. So they just don't work in the real world. Nobody's going to give you a pass. If you got a court date scheduled and you miss court, they're going to issue a bench warrant. They don't care why you missed court. Whatever you had to do. If you wasn't in the hospital or in jail, you ain't gonna get no excuse, bro. If your wife is having your baby, but you're supposed to be in court, go to court, then go back to the hospital. That's what you got to do. Because nobody cares. When you have an obligation, your excuses don't matter. Obligations are obligations. And as a man, you must know those obligations, and you must not believe that somebody wants to hear your excuses when you don't honor those obligations. No one cares. They just don't work. And the thing is, you only believe they work because they work with your parents. Like if you have parents, man, or a parent, most times when your excuses work, and they allow you to use excuses, and then they bail you out, they're ruining your chances of being successful in the world. They're ruining your chances. Yeah, and that's a great point, famo. That's a great point. That's why I only accept yes or no. I only accept yes or no. I only give yes or no. Because the bottom line is, hey man, listen, we don't have time to be, indecisive about what's gonna happen here. The sooner we accept and come to agreement what's gonna happen here, then everybody knows what they need to do moving forward. Everybody knows what they need to do moving forward. And that's the main thing. The main thing is to not allow yourself to be the cog in the machine that makes the machine stop working, that makes it stop flowing smoothly and flowing fluidly. You have to make sure you're not that one. And the only way to do that is for everybody to be on the up and up about everything. That's another lesson I learned, man. Hey, man, tell people what it is. Tell people what it is and what it ain't. With everybody. Tell people what it is and what it ain't. Tell people what you are going to do and what you aren't going to do. If they don't like what you aren't going to do, so what? They might not like what you are going to do. But you can't live your life worrying about, making people happy. I'm going to do these things that I don't want to do so this person can be happy while I be miserable. You're responsible for your own happiness, but you're also responsible for your own misery. You can create misery or you can create joy. It's on you. It's solely on you if you want to create misery or you want to create joy. No one else really cares. I'm just keeping it a buck with you. No one else really cares. You think people care, but they don't. I'm telling you now, they don't. They don't care at all. And the reality is they don't have to. They shouldn't care. And I'll tell you this, man. At a certain point, the responsibility of being who you want to be is yours. And that starts young. It starts young. You understand? Once you're to the point, the first decision everyone should make for themselves is what they're going to do after high school. It starts right there. And I'm talking about in the States. Now, in other places, other cultures are different. You know what I mean? Other cultures are different, and other cultures, they build a network and a system of making sure their offspring have a path to success. Their offspring don't have to make decisions. They raise them with the path to success right in front of them. Like the parents create the success and then just guide the children to the success that's already created. That's why families hand down wealth. That's the concept of generational wealth. Well, for the most part here, we don't really have that concept. We think about it, but we don't implement it in practice. You know what I mean? So you're responsible for it. You make that decision. Hey man, you know how many people in the military and didn't want to go? You know how many people in college and didn't want to go? You know how many people want to go to one college and their parents made them go to another one, or influenced them or forced them or whatever you want to call it? Man, at that point, you start making your own decisions. Why? Because it's time. I was talking to my partner G about this, man. Man, it takes a lifetime to build a lifetime. You know what I mean? It takes a lifetime to build a life. It don't take a lifetime to build a lifestyle, but it takes a lifetime to build a life. There are so many people who are financially situated who are still unstable for the most part in their lives because they haven't built a life. They've built a lifestyle. And as you got to start thinking about building the life you want, not the lifestyle you want. Anytime you add style to something, it could come in style and go out of style. It's not authentic. It's not stable. So at a certain point, the responsibility of being who you want to be, it becomes yours. And we all have that point. We all have that point. But the last time we listened to our parents, it was not the thing that we should have done. It turned out bad. And at that point, you gotta say, okay, now it's time for me to be a man. It's time for me to make all these decisions myself. I ain't listening to my parents about nothing no more. It's time for me to start taking care of them. It's man, look, that's what it's saying. Man, man, you stuck in the time because this also what I learned. Just because they gave you a wrong bit of advice on maybe your career choice or career path, you shouldn't have been listening to them anyway on that. But that don't mean they're not wise. You don't take that to mean that you don't listen to the wisdom of your parents or the wisdom of your grandparents or the wisdom of the OGs around you. You don't take it to mean that. You are allowing them to influence something they shouldn't have influenced. But when it comes to life lessons, oh yeah, you listen to them. They can give you some game on that now. They can give you some very pertinent information on life lessons and how to apply those to your life in order to avoid certain pitfalls. Let me tell you something, man. The greatest, the your focus, the majority of your focus has to be on one thing as you navigate life: avoiding pitfalls. You have to avoid pitfalls. There are going to be bumps in the road and there's going to be obstacles, but pitfalls hold you up in life for years. Bad marriage, or not even legal marriage, bad marriage of legal kind, of common law, of shacking up, whatever you want to call it. All of those are marriage situations. And listen, and that's how God determines them. Like if y'all living together and y'all sleeping together and doing all of that, it's a marriage. Believe me. So those things trip you up for years. And you got to understand this, not just the years you're in it, the years you got to get out of it, and the years that it takes to recover from it and get back to the person you were before that. It sets you back so much. So you have to avoid pitfalls. You know what a pitfall is? Being out here doing something crazy, committing god awful crimes that you know better than, and then going to prison. That's a pitfall. Being out here doing things you ain't got no business doing, and then get yourself hurt, and then now you're rolling around in a wheelchair. That's a pitfall. It could have been avoided. Yeah, you can have a car accident and all of those things, and those things can happen as well. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about your decisions to embrace things, to indulge in things. Pitfalls. Any addiction is a pitfall. And so that's the goal is to avoid pitfalls. Because you hit a pitfall, man, you can't recover from a pitfall. You understand? Well, I won't say you can't recover from a pitfall, but you have to get out of that pitfall and vow to yourself and the Most High to never go back to it. That's the problem with pitfalls. They're pitfalls because you're liable to fall back into them again. You never fully reach the top. And on the rare occasion that someone does, they have to be dead focused on doing that. They have to be dead focused on doing that. There's no, well, I'm going to try a little bit and maybe a little bit. I don't know. No, you got to get to it, man. You got to get to it. And I mean, seriously, you got to get to it. Because here's the thing. If you don't, you're going to live with regret, remorse, and resentment. And being regretful, remorseful, or resentful over the past will ruin your present. And if you ruin your present, you have no future. I tell you this all the time. Being regretful, remorseful, or resentful over the past will add so much toxicity to your present that your future will be eliminated. And that's not what any of us wants in our lives. It's not necessary to have. Matter of fact, it's not beneficial. It's not required. You don't even have to have it. It's not necessary to have that in your life. But you got to put forth the effort and the focus and determination to get over it, man, because that's the worst state you could be in, man. Let me tell you, meeting someone who's regretful, remorseful, and or resentful about their past, there is a dark cloud over that person. And whatever sunshine you have in your life, their cloud is going to turn that thing overcast very quickly. So, the one lesson I would say take with you today is find your spiritual connection to the God of Israel and allow it to be the foundation of whatever you're building in this life. Find your spiritual connection to the God of Israel and allow it to be the foundation of whatever you're attempting to build in this life. Because if it's not the foundation, whatever you build is going to fail, it's going to falter. So let's do a quick recap. Top 10 spiritual lessons I've learned in life so far to gain and maintain peace of mind. The most traumatic experience that you can have growing up is living in poverty. The way to overcome that trauma is to make up in your mind that you never want to be that way again and live your life accordingly. Number two, the only protection from society and yourself, the demands and pitfalls of both, is to connect with the Most High and make sure that you build a strong relationship with Him as early as possible in life. Number three, you can't be taught life lessons by life failures. There are no failures except quitting. And when you give up, there's no lesson in giving up. Number four, your parents aren't your only source of information. So all the bad decisions you made when you were young, don't blame them for not teaching you. You knew. Don't try to make them the scapegoat for decisions you made. You knew better. If it didn't come from them, it came from God. So what you do, what you telling them? Y'all should have told me, not God. I don't want to hear that. Number five, and we left this one off. Anything that didn't destroy you made you indestructible. Because we only address things by if it didn't destroy you because it was strong enough and vicious enough and tumultuous enough and chaotic enough to destroy you. But the fact that it didn't destroy you, even though it could have destroyed you, means that it made you more indestructible. Now you're ready for something that should destroy you. Because you've shown yourself that you can be resilient enough to survive. Number six, as you mature, you get exposed to more people who are in the position you want to be in, and you can either use that as motivation or you can use that to motivate your hateration. Use it as motivation. Use as many things in your life as motivation as you possibly can. Number seven, excuses don't work in the real world. If something needs to take place, no one cares why it didn't. It should have. No one cares why you couldn't be there. You should have. Number eight, your parents will never be who you think they ought to be. They can only be who they are. So who you think they ought to be is just you living in denial. Well, they ought to be this, or they ought to be that. Why? Says who? You don't get to determine what someone is. They are who they are based on what they went through, based on their own experiences, based on who their parents were. You know, we get everything genetically. So you got to understand that they ain't gonna never be who you want them to be. They don't have to. They don't have to be who you want them to be. You have to accept them for who they are. Number nine, at a certain point, the responsibility of being who you want to be is 100% yours. No one owes you to help you be who you want to be. No one owes you to tell you who you're supposed to be. No one owes you to accept you even when you know you're not who you're supposed to be. So that responsibility is yours because you're the only one who's really going to benefit from you being who you're supposed to be, who you want to be. Well, you're the first one that's going to benefit from it. Let's put it like that. Number 10, being regretful, remorseful, or resentful over the past will add so much toxicity to your present that your future will be gone. Your future will be obsolete. There's no need for you to say future unless you're talking about the rapper. And number 11, find your spiritual connection to the God of Israel and allow it to be the foundation of everything you're attempting to build in this life, because if you don't, you have no foundation, and whatever you built in will falter. Can you dig it? So look, brothers, I appreciate y'all being in the building, man. Famo, GC. Appreciate y'all Mod Squad brothers in here representing, man. I appreciate it, man. I saw June coming here earlier, man. Nick, again, I appreciate you. Markel, young home, I appreciate you again. So let's get ready to slide on out of here, man. I appreciate y'all being in the building. Hey, man, look, y'all put God first. Keep grinding and growing, my brothers. We out.